Imagine reaching the peak of success. You're famous, wealthy, and admired by all. You've written masterpieces that will be remembered for centuries, works like War and Peace and Anna Karenina. You've achieved what most people only dream of. And yet, in the midst of this success, you face an existential crisis. You start questioning everything. What's the purpose of all of this? This is exactly what happened to Leo Tolstoy, one of the greatest writers in history. After years of fame and wealth, Tolstoy found himself in the grip of a deep spiritual crisis. He realized that despite all his success, he hadn't found what he was truly searching for. So, what did he do next? Now, imagine you're in his shoes. You're a famous writer. You've created one of the greatest works in history, but you're no longer sure of what your life's purpose is. You're starting to doubt everything you once believed. How would you face this? Would you let go of everything and seek a deeper truth? Or would you continue chasing outward success and ignore the search for real meaning? Tolstoy's crisis didn't happen overnight. It was a gradual process. At first, he didn't know what he was missing. Despite his fame and wealth, Tolstoy felt a void that might have seemed insignificant to others. But this void was something that couldn't be ignored. And it wasn't just about personal happiness. He discovered something much deeper than he had ever understood before. This quest led Tolstoy to the world of philosophy and spirituality. He began questioning himself and the beliefs he had held on to, and the answers he found would forever change his view of life. Today, we're going to take a look at this spiritual journey, how Tolstoy confronted his existential doubts, what conclusions he reached, and how these conclusions can impact the way we live our own lives. Imagine you've spent your entire life achieving everything society tells you will bring happiness, success, fame, and wealth. But none of it feels like it was worth it. The question begins to haunt you. Is this it? Is this all there is to life? What happens when the things we thought would give us meaning end up leaving us empty? This is where Tolstoy found himself. Despite his literary genius and unparalleled success, he felt a growing sense of emptiness. It wasn't the kind of emptiness that wealth or fame could fill. This was a deeper, more profound absence, an absence that demanded an answer. Tolstoy sought the truth, not just in his personal life, but in the very core of existence. He questioned everything: his faith, his moral beliefs, the very foundations upon which he had built his life. And in this search for truth, he stumbled upon a realization that would forever change the course of his life. One of the key revelations Tolstoy had was this: the conventional understanding of life, success, and happiness that society upholds was nothing more than a set of illusions. He realized that people, including himself, had been living according to the dictates of society's expectations without truly examining whether those expectations were aligned with the deeper truths of human existence. He looked around and saw that everyone, rich and poor, famous and unknown, was trapped in this cycle. People were obsessed with external achievements, yet none of it gave them lasting peace. He realized that most people were too afraid to confront the darker, more uncomfortable truths of life. But what did Tolstoy find when he went beyond this veil of illusion? What did he discover when he dared to question everything? His journey led him to the realization that true meaning in life couldn't be found in external accomplishments. Instead, it came from facing the deeper questions of existence head-on, questions that most people never even consider. As Tolstoy continued his journey of self-exploration, he began to ask himself a profound question: what is the true meaning of life? Is it about accumulating wealth, fame, and accolades? Or is it something deeper, something that cannot be measured by external achievements? After years of searching, Tolstoy found that the answer was not found in the superficial pursuits of the world. True meaning in life, he concluded, lies not in what we achieve outwardly, but in how we confront the internal challenges we face. The struggle between our inner truths and the illusions we've built up over time is the very essence of life. One of Tolstoy's greatest realizations was that the external world, the society we live in, the roles we play, and the expectations placed upon us, can never provide lasting fulfillment. The recognition and material success that society celebrates are fleeting. At the end of the day, they leave us feeling hollow. What Tolstoy discovered was that real fulfillment comes from embracing the deeper, more uncomfortable truths of our own existence. He came to understand that life is not about following a pre-designed path set by society or by others. It's about creating your own path, one that requires courage to face the hard truths, to shed the illusions, and to walk toward the unknown. True meaning is found in self-awareness, in the honesty of confronting your own limitations, flaws, and the complexities of human nature. Imagine this. You're living a life where you no longer need external validation. You're not chasing after what others tell you is important. Instead, you're focused on what really matters, the truth of who you are and what you want to become. The kind of life where you are free from the weight of societal expectations and live authentically. Does that sound like something you want? This isn't some lofty ideal. It's something Tolstoy and many others throughout history have discovered. True freedom and fulfillment come from confronting the darkest parts of ourselves and emerging stronger. But here's the catch. This kind of transformation requires effort. It requires you to face the discomfort, the doubts, and the fears that have been buried beneath the surface. So here's the challenge I'm giving you today. Do you want to live the life everyone expects of you, or are you ready to step off the beaten path and create your own journey? Are you brave enough to face your own inner darkness and uncover the truth of who you really are? If you're ready to start this journey today, I challenge you to take the first step. Confront your own fears, your own insecurities, and ask yourself, what am I really searching for? You don't need to have all the answers yet, but you need to be willing to look within. Because the real transformation begins with the courage to face your own truth. If you're ready to break free from society's illusions and start living authentically, hit that subscribe button and leave a comment below. Let me know, what are you truly searching for in life? Let's start a conversation because this journey begins with us taking the first step together. Now, let's take a deeper dive into Tolstoy's journey. After uncovering the limitations of external achievements, he faced something far more frightening: the terrifying truth about human nature and the inevitable suffering that comes with existence. He didn't just face the world's challenges, but the darker parts of himself, the parts that we all try to avoid. Tolstoy's journey wasn't just about seeking meaning in the abstract. It was about confronting the realities of his own fears, doubts, and the harsh truth about life. And this is where many of us falter. We go through life pretending we're fine, hiding from our inner darkness, and avoiding the things that make us uncomfortable. But Tolstoy didn't have the luxury of living in denial. He had to face what we all fear, our own vulnerability and mortality. He confronted questions that few are willing to ask themselves. Why do we suffer? What is the purpose of life when everything seems pointless at times? Why do we continue chasing things that ultimately leave us feeling empty? These are the questions that haunted Tolstoy, and they're the same questions that, if we allow ourselves, will haunt us too. But here's the breakthrough. Tolstoy's greatest insight came when he understood that the very fear and suffering that seemed like the ultimate burden were actually the key to unlocking deeper meaning in life. The truth is, the more we try to avoid our pain, our fears, and the reality of death, the more we distance ourselves from the richness of our own existence. Tolstoy realized that in accepting our suffering, in embracing the darker aspects of life, we find freedom. Freedom doesn't come from avoiding pain. It comes from accepting that pain is a part of being human. It's in the willingness to confront our fear of death, our existential dread, and the uncertainty of the world around us that we begin to see the beauty of life. He came to understand that it is not the absence of pain that gives life meaning, it's our response to pain. It's how we grow from hardship, how we find wisdom in our suffering, and how we let go of the false beliefs that keep us trapped in cycles of fear and disillusionment. And this is where Tolstoy's journey becomes so important for us. The idea that we must confront our own fear, question our assumptions, and stop running from the truth is not just a philosophical notion, it's a practical call to action. If we want to truly live, we must be willing to face the darkest parts of ourselves, the parts we'd rather ignore. So let's ask ourselves this: what would it look like if we stopped running from our fears? What would happen if we embraced the discomfort and uncertainty that comes with confronting our own truth? What if we stopped pretending that everything is fine and allowed ourselves to feel the full weight of life's challenges? Imagine how liberating it would be to finally face the truth and step into the unknown without fear. To let go of the illusions that keep us in bondage and live authentically, embracing both the light and the darkness of life. That's where real growth happens. So, are you ready to take that step? As Tolstoy delved deeper into his search for meaning, something remarkable began to happen. His understanding of freedom, of what it truly means to live, started to shift. He realized that all his previous achievements, all the external successes he had built his life on, were illusions. They weren't the real sources of happiness or fulfillment, they were distractions. He had spent decades building an empire of fame and success, only to realize that these things were like smoke, transient, fleeting, and ultimately hollow. For a long time, he had believed that external accomplishments were the key to a fulfilling life. But as he aged and faced his existential doubts, he began to see things differently. Tolstoy came to understand that true freedom is not about accumulating wealth, status, or power. It's not about escaping the reality of our mortality or the suffering we face. True freedom comes from within. It comes from breaking free of the illusions we've been conditioned to believe in, the false narratives about what will make us happy. He realized that true freedom is not the absence of obstacles. It's the ability to live in accordance with our deepest values, even when the world around us is chaotic and uncertain. It's about being authentic, even when society tells us to conform, and pursuing a life that aligns with our soul's true desires, not the superficial goals that are imposed on us by others. At this point in his life, Tolstoy began to embrace the simple things. He turned away from the distractions of fame and wealth and instead focused on living authentically, on finding peace within himself, even amidst the turbulence of life. He chose to live in a way that felt true to his core values, rather than following the paths laid out by society. This shift in perspective is crucial for all of us. We live in a world that constantly bombards us with messages about what we need to be happy: money, power, fame, recognition. But these are just distractions, and they're designed to keep us from the truth. The truth is that we already have everything we need to live a meaningful, fulfilling life. We just have to stop looking outward for answers and start looking within. Tolstoy's journey isn't just a story of personal growth. It's a wake-up call for all of us to stop chasing empty goals. It's about learning to let go of the false promises of society and rediscovering the power of living authentically. In his later years, Tolstoy found peace not by acquiring more, but by letting go of the things that no longer served him. And in this, he discovered a profound truth. True freedom is found in the ability to surrender. Think about it. What if, like Tolstoy, you stopped chasing the things that the world tells you should make you happy? What if you gave up the constant pursuit of wealth, recognition, and status, and instead focused on what truly brings you peace and joy? What would your life look like if you were free from the illusion of more and just embraced what you already have? Tolstoy's lesson is clear. True freedom is about letting go of the illusions that hold us back. It's about stopping the endless chase for things we don't need and instead focusing on what truly matters, the peace and contentment that come from within. So how do we begin to live in accordance with our deepest values? How do we find freedom in a world that constantly tries to tell us what to do and what to want? As Tolstoy continued his search for meaning, he discovered a profound truth that many of us overlook in the chaos of modern life. The real answers to life's biggest questions aren't found in grand philosophical systems or external achievements. They're found in the simple, everyday acts of kindness and love, and in our relationships with others. He began to see that true happiness doesn't come from intellectual accomplishments, wealth, or fame. It doesn't come from conquering the world or achieving monumental feats. It comes from something much simpler, something that is available to all of us, no matter our status or background: human connection. He began to see that true happiness doesn't come from intellectual accomplishments, wealth, or fame. It doesn't come from conquering the world or achieving monumental feats. It comes from something much simpler, something that is available to all of us, no matter our status or background: human connection. Those around him, he realized that the true essence of life is found in our connections with others. This realization was a turning point for him. It wasn't that he abandoned his philosophical inquiries or spiritual pursuits, but he understood that no matter how much we try to search for meaning in abstract concepts, it's the simple, human experiences that provide the most lasting fulfillment. Think about it. When was the last time you truly connected with someone? Not in a superficial way, but in a deep, authentic manner. When was the last time you truly listened, not to respond, but to understand? When did you last offer a kind word or gesture to someone in need without expecting anything in return? For Tolstoy, these were the moments that mattered most, and they were the moments that brought him peace and contentment. He realized that the search for meaning wasn't some abstract quest. It was a journey that unfolded in the very real, everyday interactions with the people around him. This is a powerful lesson for all of us. In a world that often tells us that success is defined by wealth, fame, and power, we need to remember that true success, true meaning, comes from something far simpler: the connections we make with others and the way we show up for those relationships. The beauty of life isn't just in the grand, sweeping moments, but in the quiet, intimate exchanges, in the smile of a stranger, in the comforting embrace of a loved one, in the small, everyday acts of kindness that make the world a little brighter. Tolstoy's final revelation was this: we don't need to search for meaning in grandiose, distant ideals. We don't need to conquer the world. The meaning of life is already here, in our hearts and in the people we share our lives with. All we need to do is open our hearts to these connections and embrace the beauty in the simplicity of everyday life. Tolstoy's final revelation was this: we don't need to search for meaning in grandiose, distant ideals. We don't need to conquer the world. The meaning of life is already here, in our hearts and in the people we share our lives with. All we need to do is open our hearts to these connections and embrace the beauty in the simplicity of everyday life. Take a moment to appreciate the beauty in the ordinary. What if you started living in a way that values these moments of connection over everything else? Life is made of small moments, not grand achievements. And in those small moments, we find the deepest meaning. So let's start living with intention, embracing the simplicity of human connection, and finding fulfillment in the everyday. What if everything you've been taught about morality, good and evil, is just a convenient construct? What if the truth is so brutal that most people would rather live in illusion than face it? This is the dangerous thought that Friedrich Nietzsche introduced to the world, a thought that shook the very foundations of what society believes is right and wrong. Nietzsche believed that traditional morality was a creation of society designed to suppress human instincts and keep people in line. He argued that the very concept of good and evil was a manipulation to control individuals and limit their potential. In essence, Nietzsche proposed that morality wasn't universal. It was simply a social construct created to serve those in power. Imagine the implications of this. If Nietzsche is right, then everything you've believed about what is good might be an illusion. The idea of being good or moral could just be a strategy to ensure that you remain obedient to a system that benefits others, not you. But why did Nietzsche think this? What led him to such a radical conclusion? For him, it came down to understanding the human will. The will to power, as Nietzsche called it, was the fundamental driving force behind all human action. He argued that true greatness and freedom come from embracing this will to power and rejecting the chains of societal morality. Nietzsche's challenge was clear. He wasn't offering comfort or easy answers. Instead, He was pushing us to confront uncomfortable truths, to stop relying on social norms to define who we are, and to start living in a way that is authentic to our deepest desires and instincts. His philosophy didn't stop at rejecting morality, it went further. Nietzsche called for the creation of a new type of individual, one who could rise above the herd mentality and forge their own path. He called this person the Übermensch, the Superman, a being who transcends the limitations imposed by society and embraces their true, untamed nature. Now let's pause for a moment. What does this mean for you? What does it mean for the way you've lived your life so far? Nietzsche isn't just criticizing others. He's challenging you to look at yourself and question whether your beliefs, your actions, and your values are truly yours, or if they've been shaped by a society that doesn't have your best interests in mind. Now let's pause for a moment. What does this mean for you? What does it mean for the way you've lived your life so far? Nietzsche isn't just criticizing others, he's challenging you to look at yourself and question whether your beliefs, your actions, and your values are truly yours, or if they've been shaped by a society that doesn't have your best interests in mind. False morality that has been ingrained in you and to live according to your own principles? Or will you continue to live in the comfort of illusion, accepting what has been handed down to you without questioning its validity? Nietzsche's philosophy doesn't offer comfort, it offers power. Power to be yourself, to embrace your will to power, and to create a life that is authentic and true to who you are. But only if you are willing to face the harshest truths about yourself and the world around you. In this part, we introduce Nietzsche's radical and controversial philosophy about the nature of morality and human existence. His challenge is profound, forcing the audience to rethink their lives and the morals they live by. Ready to move to the next one when you are.